Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out each and every day, it expands our base. Choosing a cabinet is a very important function for a president-elect. And indeed, when you're president of the United States, who you use in your cabinet, that is to say, the people you trust, the people you surround yourself with, the people you take to run the major departments of the United States government, that's critical. It's not The Apprentice, it's not a TV show, it's the reality of running a federal government. One of the things we have noticed, and everyone is seeing it, is chaos in the Trump selections. Individual after individual, nominated for the cabinet or for high jobs, are being challenged on their competence, their honesty, their integrity, you name it. These are serious times. The world is looking at the United States as we confront problems in South Korea, in Ukraine, in the Middle East, and they're looking for stability. That's what the U.S. presidential election just a month ago was all about. Stability. The proof that the American democratic system works. Well, what we've seen since the election of November 5th is a whole new approach to choosing a cabinet. First of all, let me be clear. I do have faith in the FBI. I don't believe the FBI has been used overwhelmingly as a political tool. And the last thing I want to see is an FBI politicized. The nomination of Kash Patel to be the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation should give pause to every American. Because if you listen to his words, if you listen to his interviews, this is a man who has said retribution is in order, that he wants to disband the FBI office in Washington, turn the J. Edgar Hoover building into a museum, and send people out into the field. Well, nothing wrong with being in the field, but I have to tell you something. The central work of the Federal Bureau of Investigation is critical. And those of you who have toured, as I have, the FBI building in Washington, understand what goes on there and how important it is, not just to the prevention of crime, but in terms of our own national security. These are serious times. Now, the real question will be, who will be Secretary of Defense? There is now talk that President-elect Trump is going to move Ron DeSantis, otherwise known as Ron DeSanctimonious, so named by Donald Trump, to be Secretary of Defense. Let's pause for a moment and think about what that means. Do you want a political opponent of a president to be in a major cabinet position? Well, the answer is yes. You remember Doris Kearns Goodwin, magnificent book, A Team of Rivals? Abraham Lincoln used his rivals, may I use a special word, harnessed his rivals into an effective governing force. So far, I'm not seeing that from Donald Trump. In fact, if you really consider the first term, and you realize how many people who served with Donald Trump under his direction did not support him in the election of 2024, you have to pause and ask a simple question. Will we have a government structured so it can do its job, or will we have a government of chaos? Now, this is a serious question. Chaos in government is not a good thing. Members of the Congress, House and Senate, need to have confidence in the secretaries of the various departments. They need to have confidence in the White House staff. They need to have confidence in the leaders of our federal agencies, whether it's the FBI or the Secret Service or, well, any of the agencies. When you have a nominee to head DEA withdraw before the nomination even comes up, when you have a nominee for Attorney General of the United States withdraw before the nomination is even really considered, when you go down the list of individuals who Donald Trump either nominated or considered nominating who are now being sidelined, you have to ask what happens on January 20th. We cannot have a government in chaos. We cannot have a government in disorder. A president of the United States needs functioning department heads and cabinet members who can do their job. Let me point out that the president's cabinet is not what it used to be. It used to be a group of individuals, mostly men, who sat down with the president on a regular basis, advised, talked, discussed major issues, even those not involved in their departments. Ultimately, the cabinet positions evolved into real administrative function. A cabinet secretary has to run his or her department, and they have to do it with the confidence not only of the president, but also the confidence of the employees in that department, and also the confidence, frankly, of the American people. One wonders if we had been able to turn the clock back a month and yet witness the chaos which has ensued in recent days, whether the American people would have in good conscience put Donald Trump back in the White House. Of course, the argument can be made, and effectively so, that the reason he won was because he promised disruption, because he promised a level of chaos. But I have to tell you bluntly, that's not what I'm looking for in a president. I'm looking for someone who can lead. I will never forget picking up a book when I was a kid called The Kennedy Government. It was published right after John F. Kennedy was inaugurated as president and included profiles of all of his cabinet members. I still have the book. It is an inspiring book in a way because what you read about were people who really knew what they were doing. Well, my friends, we have to see what happens as the nominations proceed, as the discussions proceed. And by the way, we also have to look at what the Republicans in the United States Senate are going to do, because it is their responsibility to advise and consent. So we wait and we watch. So far, I'm very concerned. The question I would have for you is that concern justified? Do you share it? Boy, oh boy, are we going to be in for a fascinating ride in a second Trump presidency. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow. And please continue to offer me your comments on Facebook and LinkedIn. It's very important for me to have feedback from you as we continue to grow around the political world. I do want to say a special thanks to our own Gogo Zoger, who is the producer of this program, and I want to say she's doing a great job. I am John Rothman. I'll be back tomorrow, right here on Around the Political World.